I am just a regular guy. I was born here in the United States, back in the mid 70s. I was, like any other kid, but when I was about 12, 13 years old, I was exposed to hardcore pornography magazines for the first time by a cousin, and it instantly resonated with me. It was like nothing I'd ever felt before. Um, when people say, is this a real addiction? I knew I was addicted from the first time that I saw it, or maybe didn't know I was addicted, but I knew that I had found something. The only other time I felt like this for the first time ever was about 3 years later, the first time that I ever got truly drunk. And then for the rest of my life, up until about 7 years ago, and I'm 44 now, up until about 7 years ago, I used pornography and alcohol in tandem as addictions, and addictions that I hid well from people. But I used these addictions to try to get through my life. And when I finally faced the music, when I finally decided to get into recovery and get serious about my mental health, get serious about these addictions that have been plaguing me for so long and really tearing my life apart towards the end of them, um, that was when I started to learn just what a major problem pornography addiction was, especially with the generation that came right after me. When you look at people who grew up with the internet, and we're now talking about people who are largely 30, 31 years old and under,
It's amazing.
uh, who don't really remember a world before the internet. Maybe they didn't get it till they were 7 or 8 years old in their house, but they don't remember a world before the internet. Statistics about this group are just alarming. There was a study here in the States, it's about 3 years old now, by an organization called the Barna Group. And they interviewed over 1,500 men. They found between the ages of 18 and 30, so that's essentially men under the age of 30, that 32% reported they either believed they had an issue with pornography or they believed that they had a full-on pornography addiction. And that absolutely blew my mind away. And
Mm.
as I was going, because that's 1 out of every 3 men under 30 in the US.
Who
And
were
I know
just
that
the ones willing to admit it as well.
exactly. And I know these statistics are very similar for Europe. They're very similar for the more developed countries in Africa and in South America, Asia as well. And what really struck me was I tried to get a lot of research done, because that's kind of me. I'm a journalist by background. I became a journalist when I was 18 years old, and I did it pretty much full time until I was 37, 38. And I still take on freelance and ghostwriting assignments. Um, it blew my mind how little there was about pornography addiction out there. I could learn a lot about addiction. I could learn about my alcoholism. There's a little bit about sex addiction, but intercourse has never been my addiction. It's been pornography.
Mm.
And I decided that with my background, with my ability to get in front of crowds and talk, and with the fact that there was nothing out there for people like me, because I think when we think of porn addict, we think of like a 19-year-old guy living in his mom's basement. He's never kissed a girl in real life.
Mm.
He's the typical incel. And when I actually went to an inpatient rehab facility for 7 weeks for my porn addiction, and I met men and women ranging from 18, 19 years old up through early 60s. I met doctors and lawyers and mothers and sisters,
Mm.
and you name it. It was anybody out there, and I decided that I wanted to create some resources. So I started writing books, started doing presentations about this, because it is such a huge problem. It was a huge problem in my life. It almost cost me my marriage. It did cost me my professional career, because it got out. And I make the joke to people when I told people that I was going to rehab for alcoholism. They'd pat me on the back and shake my hand. And when I'd tell them that I was going to rehab for porn addiction, they wanted the hand sanitizer.